Could Fallout 5 be developed by somebody other than Bethesda? Well, it wouldn't actually be the first time that another Fallout was built by somebody else, and it certainly wouldn't be the first time that it led to a great game, because it could potentially be a much better situation. In a recent interview with Todd Howard about the success of the TV show does seem to indicate that Bethesda is open to working with other studios, kind of in the same way that they did for the TV show, but they also are looking into options to get the Fallout 5 game out faster. Likely, Microsoft and Xbox is looking at the success of the TV show and saying, hey, we got to get that game to market quicker, or maybe in conjunction with one of the seasons that are on the way. We know the show has been greenlit for a second season, and they could be trying to have a game coincide with maybe the third. So that would be an excellent push. Now, obviously, fans may be split on what Bethesda should do next. Should they focus on Fallout 5? Should they focus on the Elder Scrolls 6? We know they are pivoting to Elder Scrolls 6 as they are continuing to update and fix Starfield, as well as plan for the Shattered Space DLC to come this fall, which Todd Howard did confirm in the interviews as well. And when you're looking at the difference between like whether or not they build Fallout 5 or whether or not they build the Elder Scrolls 6, somebody might say, well, why not both? Okay, well, a quick look at the history of Fallout gives us an insight in how letting somebody else build the game can actually work. It can work to the benefit of the game coming out quicker and actually being an excellent delivery. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share the video or subscribe to the channel. This is a live show. It's a longer video. You're like, why is this so live? I did about a 13-minute upload. If you want to check that out, it's a more exhaustive look at what I'm about to kind of run through very quickly for you. So if you look at the history of Fallout 1 and 2 weren't built by Bethesda, and it was a top-down RPG. I've got great footage in that video. Make sure and check it out. I had no idea. I didn't pay attention to Fallout during that time, okay? Then Fallout 3 enters the picture, and this is when Bethesda takes the reins. This is when they build the game, and they take it out of the top-down RPG, and they build an open world, third-person and first-person game, depending on how you want to play it. And it was considered a masterpiece, okay? And it's considered by some even today to be one of the best games ever made. Now, just 2 years later, though, after the massive success of Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas lands. And it wasn't built by Bethesda, it was built by Obsidian. So just 2 years later, that's pretty quick turnaround time for games of this size, scope, and complexity, especially considering many looked at the fact that they took the RPG elements of a top-down game, put it into a 3D world, and that to many people was revolutionary, and doing it again just 2 years later seemed almost impossible. Well, it rivaled Fallout 3 in both sales as well as consumer reception. There's always been an ongoing debate in the community, which game is better, which is the best Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas. Even today, as this conversation is brewing in light of Todd Howard's remarks, you've got people saying, hey, get Obsidian on this. Now, there was an article that came out that basically said Obsidian's not really interested. From things that people have heard, they're wanting to not necessarily do these large-scale projects. Now, the beginning of sort of the plateau, or at the very least the beginning of things maybe starting to decline slightly, would be Fallout 4. And I'm not talking about commercial success, because Fallout 4 had massive commercial success. To date, it's sold essentially more than Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas combined. And both of those games did incredibly well. So that's saying a lot about Fallout 4 and how well it sold. But this is when the reception from the community started to wane. I had a wonderful experience with Fallout 4, but every time it came up, people would talk to me about how it's the worst Fallout, or it was full of bugs, or the modders had to save it. My experience was I put in over 110 hours into Fallout 4 on my Xbox. We went back to check out the latest update, the next-gen update that sadly we're hearing is running better on the PlayStation 5, so that's causing a bunch of drama. But my experience with Fallout 4 was largely very good, but it was when the community started to feel like, man, this game just isn't as good as we want it to be. I remember even being on a podcast back then when it came out with my good friend 30 and So Gaming, and I remember his brother, Sergeant McCluskey, saying, hey, the engine's really showing its age, right? The glitches, the bugs, the rough edges, okay? And then at the time, I think a lot of people were able to look the other way. Then Fallout 76 comes out. It was an undeniable disaster. Now, you can point to who made it. It wasn't the same team. You can point to the fact that it's improved a bunch over the years. The point being that Fallout kind of fell pretty low, and it seems to be rising again, which is why we're talking about Fallout 5. Okay, there's a big surge of players in Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. The TV show has boasted of over 65 million viewers, and it could end up trailing the 100 million viewer record for Amazon with Rings of Power. Being in just the slight shadow of a Lord of the Rings production is pretty impressive. And because of the success of the TV show, Todd Howard's obviously doing interviews, and he does an interview and he basically says they're looking into ways that they could bring Fallout to market quicker. He doesn't say it exactly in those words, but he essentially says they're always looking into ways to do that, which is why I want to talk about the future. I think at this point it's undeniable that Starfield it's spiritually and even logistically and internally, it very much is Fallout 5. You could call it Fallout 4.5, whatever you want to call it. And I think it really, really shows that Fallout has outgrown Bethesda. That's what I said in the upload. And I go through a bunch of details as to why I think somebody else should be building Fallout 5, okay? I don't just think Fallout has outgrown Bethesda. I believe that it's outgrown the creation engine. I don't think Bethesda can do anything in a new engine, at least not in quick turnaround time. It would take quite a while for them to get the teams and get the departments able to be doing, good work and efficient work in a new engine. That would take some time because they've been working with Creation Engine for I don't even know how long. I mean, when the Fallout, between Fallout 3 and now maybe, I'm not actually sure what they built Fallout 3, and I wasn't able to research that, but let's just assume that that's what they did. I mean, that's basically been their engine for a long time. And Fallout is a near 30-year franchise now. I think they're like 3 or 4 years away from the 30-year anniversary. That'd be a great time for Fallout 5 to come out, right? If they could get it to turnaround time in that amount of time. I think that's a little too fast for a game of this size, but the point being, if you took a game like this and you built it in something like the Decima engine, and I know they probably couldn't get the rights to use the Decima engine, but if you really look at the level of NPC interaction, world size, detail of a game like Horizon Forbidden West. I remember telling people that you can't compare Horizon Forbidden West with Starfield because of the number of, automated lines they're going to have to use, and all the NPCs are going to be automated. And I basically said that's not a fair comparison. Here's the real reason, though, that we can't say it's a fair comparison, because the engine is basically holding back Starfield, and I believe it would hold back Fallout 5. So I think you should get another studio to build it. A lot of people were commenting on my tweet and saying, oh, give it to id Software, ID Software, the guys that, that do Doom. I don't know if they'd be interested in a project of this scope and size, that this would be a gargantuan-sized game. And if Obsidian's not interested, you may have a hard time finding a studio that would be equipped to do it if you're thinking about the size and the scope of what a Fallout 5 would need to be. If they do this, though, you could bring in Bethesda, have them consult on the art direction, have them consult on the story, just like they did with the TV show. And the TV show and Fallout New Vegas proves you can let somebody else take the reins for Fallout 5. But that's just what I think. Now it's time to hear what you think. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the live audience. Thank you guys so much for being here. We greatly appreciate your support of the channel. And those premieres, we tried something a little bit different this morning. We're still just doing the premiere at 9:30, but we scheduled it a lot earlier. Hopefully that helped you guys get notified. Hopefully that helps you sort of plan and get in there and get ready. I know it's different, but it is incredibly helpful when you guys dogpile on those premieres. Show them love with likes and all the rest. And do the same thing now. Let's just get a couple more likes. Let's get those first 100 likes. Let's get those gifted members rolling. The goal for this week's 250. You already have 60, so you only need 190 more members. That is nothing for you guys. You guys are crazy, crazy generous. And Han shot first, and so did you. First member coming in from Joker Quinn, and then another one from Stone Spire. They say, come on, boys. You guys waited till the buzzer yesterday to maintain the 25 goal minimum streak. You guys did it. You maintained that. Institutional expertise. Right. The institutional expertise. It's not just institutional knowledge. That's probably a better term, is the institutional expertise. Like, I don't think you could go to Bethesda right now and be like, we need you to build Fallout 5 in another engine. They'd be like, well, that's going to take way longer. They'd have to spend a good portion of time building tools and getting their teams trained and acclimated and shifted over to whatever the new engine was. Now, you can skip all that and you can just hand it to somebody else who then builds it in another engine. Now, the concern obviously would be, I think the primary concern would be art direction. I don't think you'd be concerned about the feel, because I don't think the Fallout 4 feels particularly amazing with respect to movement and gunplay. Like, it's fine, it's passable. I've always had people tell me, well, because it's an RPG, who really cares? Id is a good shout out too, because they also did Rage, which is a good Fallout type game. I think id Software could nail the vibe. I'm talking about the scope of the game. Would they want to build a giant open world RPG? Do you understand? It would be like asking Infinity Ward to build a Fallout. Like, I have zero doubt in my mind that id Software could say, hey, we can nail post-apocalyptic and macabre and dark and dreary, but I don't necessarily think id Software would want to build a giant open world RPG. Think about the dialogue systems, the inventory systems, the loot systems, like all of those things that you've got to nail in a Fallout. You would need a company that's familiar with games of that scope. That's why people are all saying Obsidian. But Obsidian, again, according to the article I read, it doesn't sound like Obsidian would be interested. It sounds like Obsidian's like, man, games of that scope, projects of that scope, it doesn't sound like they're interested in things that large. Reveal teaser for Batman Arkham Shadow coming in late 2024 to MetaQuest VR. Oh, a Batman VR game. Lone Wolf in the members only Discord. Great reason to become a member. Great reason to gift members is there's no character limit in our Discord. And if you've never tried the Reforge coffee before, that's not a sponsor. Okay, that's something that we do. I've got a light roast and a dark roast. My wife and kiddos bag it up and ship it to you. If you want to support the channel and you drink coffee, give that a try, Coffee Command, or the link below. But Lone Wolf in the members-only Discord says, something to keep in mind. Fallout 76 didn't have to climb its way back from a bad user score on Steam for a long period of time. It launched on Steam a year and a half later with the Wastelanders DLC update. It did get review bombed initially, but has evened out within a short amount of time because of how much people seemed to enjoy the Wastelanders update it launched with, and obviously didn't have as many bad reviews as Starfield has. Well, the point is, though, Lone Wolf, if you look at Starfield within the realm of major launches, like this is why I brought that up. People are going to push back and they're going to say Fallout 76 doesn't count. It wasn't built by the same team. Okay, fine. We won't count Fallout 76. Look at the drop from Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and then go to Starfield. Like, Bethesda, if Starfield should be the culmination of everything they've learned. Everything they learned from building Skyrim, everything they learned from building Fallout 4, all the mistakes, obviously, from Fallout 76. I mean, what do you learn there other than it was rushed and sloppy and a disaster? But that's why I bring that up. It's like, if you're going to, okay, fine, well, let's just dismiss Fallout 76. Or if you want to say, oh, well, Fallout 76, it's really improved itself over time. Okay, it improved itself from a disaster, and it's managed to get a better score than Starfield. What does that say about the overall score of Starfield? What does that say about the standing of Starfield with the public, right? If people want to wave their hand and act like it was review bombed and run to Metacritic because that's a padded score from outlets that gave the game undeservedly high scores compared to what everybody else is saying, if you have to do that, that's fine. I'm not saying you're doing that, Lone Wolf, but if you have to do that, I just think you're not really holding Bethesda accountable. You're not holding them to what they should be building, what they should be capable of. Imagine a company like, I mean, it's one of the reasons why people get so frustrated with Call of Duty, right? Like, how many Call of Duties have they built? Why do you keep screwing up basic things like, oh, hey, sorry guys, we messed up the range of SMGs again? Like, how many times are you going to do that? It's why people get frustrated. It's like, of all people, by now, you should be nailing this. This should be easy for you, right? Think of a job you've had. Think of the longest job that you've had. And by the time you were near your end of leaving the company, or maybe you're still there are things that you do now way faster than you used to, way better than you used to. Just as a single one-person example, you know that doing something for that amount of time leads to expertise. I don't feel Starfield displays any expertise at all. It feels quite literally like a phoned-in Fallout 5 with a different name. That's quite literally what it feels like. And if you compare it to Fallout 4, you would be, I think, astounded at just how much they didn't change, update, or innovate on. And that's why it's like, dude, I have no problem with handing Fallout 5 to somebody else. I don't think Bethesda's proving itself. While I agree with you, Lono, Fallout 4 sales much higher than I thought. I'm not sure what you're saying. I didn't dispute Fallout 4 sales. I talked about that in the video. I said Fallout 4 was sort of the beginning of the plateau. A lot of the community sees Fallout 4 as they dumbed down the RPG mechanics. They didn't feel it was strong as Fallout 3 or New Vegas. And yes, the commercial success of Fallout 4 is undeniable. It's undeniable. But do you want to compare the commercial success of Fallout 4 to Starfield? I don't think you want to do that. You're talking about a game that's boasting of 10 million players when Fallout 3 sold, 12.5 million. Fallout New Vegas, 12.5 million. Those are sales, not players. You're boasting about players. It's like, that's people that could install the game for free on Game Pass. It's not free. They're paying for Game Pass, but they didn't have to buy the game. Without having to purchase Starfield, you're like, oh yeah, we got 10 million players. Like, what? 25 million total sales according to the documents from that court case. Fallout 4 is in like the 25 million range. What are we even talking about? Sales don't make a good game? I actually think Fallout 4 is far better than a lot of people give it credit for. I was literally just telling the story of what happened with Fallout. Historically speaking, Fallout 4 was massively commercially successful, and yet long-standing Bethesda fans were critical of it. I streamed the game. I played the game for 110 hours. I remember consistently being told by people, this is the worst Fallout. It's full of bugs. It's super disappointing. There were tons of people that, even recently, I remember in anticipating Starfield, I had people telling me that. They were like, Fallout 4 was trash. It had to be saved by the modders. He said mainline BGS game. Who said mainline? Are you talking about me? I'm not sure who you're referring to, Patrick. If we are going to prop up Fallout 76 and Starfield, we are never going to get them to make their games better. That's so well stated, Kevin George. That's so well stated. It's like, if you're going to continue to sit here and say that Starfield is great and it was review bombed, and Fallout 76, has been either misrepresented or exaggerated, okay, fine. I guess you don't want them to give you a better product than those. Like, deep down, if you're honest, do you really want another game to launch at the caliber of Starfield? Do you want another one of those? I want you to imagine waiting five years. I want you to imagine waiting 5 years. And after you wait 5 years, you get a game that is basically very similar to Starfield. They just call it Fallout 5, and instead of being in outer space, you come out of a vault. Instead of traveling the planets, you're on one big giant map. I don't think anybody, if they're honest, would say that's what they want. I think they would want it to be like, no, it needs to be better. It needs to improve. At many levels, the most common response I got on my tweet was they need a new engine. That's not even me talking. What's his name? Luke Stevens is his name, right? He sent out that poll to all those developers that he knows, like 90-something people in the industry, and there's an extreme lack of confidence in the creation engine at this point. Devs are like, no, that's not going to work. People that actually build games look at that engine and say, that you got to leave that behind. It's showing its age. It is just horribly showing its age. Derek said, Fallout 4, my intimate knowledge of its flaws and shortcomings, and yet no other game has taken as much of my time. So whatever the debate is, I want Fallout 5 to be a decent game. Yeah, like I said, I didn't realize I put in over 110 hours into Fallout 4. Eugene says, I quit Fallout 4 back in the day because of the settlement stuff. Maybe you should give it another try now. I don't know if you'd be able to, Eugene, because it's going to feel dated. It's going to feel very dated. I mean, I'd be surprised if you could get more than 2 hours into it. Me playing the other day, I was just like, charming game, loved my time with it. I can't go back. I have such a hard time going back to games like that now. They don't have the staying power. They lack all of those. I'm trying to think of a good example. It's like, okay, think of it this way. We all know that chair in the home that's super comfortable, it's worn in, it's broken in, and you love sitting in it, okay? And it's like your favorite chair. Well, imagine you go buy a brand new chair. It's newer, it's built better, and it's way more comfortable. You're like, oh, this is so great. Okay. And you sit in that chair for a year, and you become used to it. You like it. It's got some nice features on it, you know. You can plug it into the wall, and it can do stuff. And then for whatever reason, it needs to be reupholstered, and you got to get out the old chair and sit in it. All of the rough edges of that chair would be more pronounced. You'd sense them more. You would feel them more. You would feel the awkward spring or the weirdness in the back. Like, you would feel all those things more. That's how it is for me when I go into an old game like that. It's like, yes, I loved it. 110 hours. Had a blast with it. But I've been too far away from it now. I go back and all the rough edges stick out like sharp knives. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. That's how it is for me when I go back to games like that. What's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. True Witty with a $5 super chat tip says, the problem is if you like Fallout New Vegas more than Fallout 3, you should buy it more. They move on what sells more. Money is what makes the devs see. I don't think going back and buying Fallout New Vegas is going to communicate anything to Bethesda. Now, the reason that I invoke Fallout New Vegas is I'm basically just saying, listen, you can have somebody else build the game and it can work. It can work. And Fallout New Vegas came out 2 years later on the heels of a game that won Game of the Year from multiple outlets. It was hailed as a masterpiece, and it rivaled Fallout 3 in commercial reception, the user reception, critical reception. The commercial success was virtually the same. Sold almost the same amount of copies. Come on. That proves it right there. This isn't a Bethesda game. It isn't. They brought it out of a top-down RPG, and they brought it into something that was truly revolutionary. And then Fallout 4 was good. It was fine. I liked it. I loved it. I don't think anybody would describe Fallout 4 as revolutionary, though. They would describe it as a very good game with rough edges. I think once you step into Starfield, it's like, yes, these guys are either out of ideas or the engine just isn't cutting the mustard anymore. I'm telling you, go from Fallout 4 to Starfield and you see it, you're like, the needle's not moved much, man. It really, really hasn't. That's not what I meant. You said if you like Fallout New Vegas more or Fallout 3 more, you should buy it more. They move on what sell more money. It's what makes devs see. I don't think buying one of those titles right now is going to communicate anything to the developers. How did I misrepresent what you said? That's what you said. The developers right now aren't like, let's wait and see which game sells better, Fallout 3 or New Vegas. Are you talking about present games? I'm not sure what your point was, True Witty. I mean, character limit might have got you. Bethesda can't win on graphics or gameplay. They need to focus on stellar writing. I don't think you could create an open world RPG that lands in the next 4 years, 5 years, and fall back on writing. If the graphics are rough and the gameplay is rough, no. Too many people have played big open world games, whether it's Elden Ring or Horizon Forbidden West. They don't understand. You can get very pedantic about it and be like, yes, but this is this engine, and there's object permanence, and there's this, litany of permutations of dialogue trees that result in emergent gameplay dictated dynamically by the player. You can say all that, nobody cares. Like, we can all straighten our glasses and be like, well, this is an RPG, and that's not an RPG, and so RPG should be given a pass on graphics and gameplay. No one cares about that. The average consumer doesn't give a rip about that. They're going to boot up the game and they're going to say, looks old, feels old, this sucks. That's what's going to happen. You can't fall back on, well, it's an RPG, so the gameplay can be bad and the graphics can be bad. Like, you can't do that anymore. I think what happens is we look at games like, traditionally and historically, you look at games like EverQuest and World of Warcraft, and the graphics and the gameplay are not what you're really talking about. You're talking about the scope and the size, the personalization, the communal aspect, right? You're talking about way more than that. No one would ever say yeah, I play World of Warcraft for the graphics. No one would ever say that, right? The scope and size of the game is what really is the value proposition. This giant MMO with all these people, you've got your guild, your friends, you've got your build, the time investment, the personalization that goes into it. That's the selling point of a game like that. You can't do that 4 years from now. You can't walk into the market and be like, yeah, our game looks old graphically, doesn't have the greatest of gameplay, but the writing is stellar and the RPG mechanics are stellar. At that point, you'd be better off just building a tabletop game if that's your selling point. Do you understand? Like, that you might as well not even try to do some big open world game. You're going to get crushed by the expectations of the more modern player base now. I'm telling you right now, one of the main reasons that Starfield got immediately rejected by so many people was because it looked old. It looked like an old game. That we had people doing that with Ronin. Now Rise of the Ronin has exceeded Neo in sales. Koei Tecmo is very satisfied with Ronin, but look how many people wrote off Rise of the Ronin almost instantly. Why? They didn't play it. They didn't touch it. They looked at it and said, looks like an old game. That looks like a PS4 game. Now, that's an exaggeration. It doesn't literally look like a PS4 game, but it kind of looks like a PS4 game with an uptick on the PS5. Like, it doesn't look that great. So, the performance and the appearance of your game are going to matter for reception. I'm not saying the game would fail, but I'm saying I don't think you can wave your hand about that anymore. I don't think you can. Forget looked. It looked fine, but Starfield played like an old game. I don't know. I feel like when you looked at some of the NPCs and some of the environments, I always said that Starfield was like bad lighting on the porch. Do you remember that episode of Seinfeld where there are times where his girlfriend looks really pretty and then they use lighting and different things, and if it's bad lighting, she looks hideous, right? Starfield was like that for me. There were times where I was like, wow, this is a really pretty game. And then I would get into other environments and I'm like, this looks old and dated. What's going on here? I felt like it was a very inconsistent game with respect to art direction and graphics, and, well, performance obviously was, subjective to the PC that you were on, because I wasn't playing it on console because of the 30 FPS. They somehow managed to get graphics, character animation, voice acting quality, etc., usually reserved for linear narrative games, and they put it in a vast open world, kind of ruined other open worlds. Yeah, like, I don't think if you think Horizon Forbidden West looks and runs the way that it does because, like, it's not an RPG, because I'll refer to those games as action RPGs, and people will, get angry because they gatekeep the term RPG. They gatekeep the term RPG so stringently that old school Final Fantasy games aren't RPGs according to them. Anyways, so just imagine Horizon Forbidden West was an RPG. If suddenly Aloy had a really in-depth skill tree with strength, endurance, vitality, all the classic RPG things to invest in, all your skill points, and you had classes to choose from that would dictate her ability to have charisma with certain tribes. She could have then reputation with those tribes and get new missions and then get new status with them. Like, add all those RPG tropes. I don't think that suddenly pulls that game's performance down. You could do all that in that game. Instead of a skill tree with skill bubbles, you would do a skill tree with skill points. She has the ability to get stronger gear already. There's already a loot table in that game. There already is. Yes, you want to be able to level up her strength, her charisma, her mannishness, and her body hair. Yes, for all the incels that think she's ugly. So for me, it's like those systems are already kind of there. Just change them. Right? You're basically speaking Fallout. That's what I'm saying. Imagine Fallout in an environment like that. That's the entire point of what I was just saying. You're tracking with me, Lushy. I'm describing Fallout because you could go into the loot table of Horizon and the skill tree of Horizon, switch it to the more traditional RPG delivery. The NPCs are there with a bunch of dialogue options, and they respond differently, and you can respond differently. You can respond with your fist, your brain, or your heart. They already have a semblance of that. It's very low level. It's extremely low level. If you suddenly took all those systems and added depth and more permutations to them, that doesn't suddenly put a drain on the game's ability to look nice. Do you understand what I'm saying? This idea that, well, if it's an RPG, it's okay if it doesn't look nice. It's like, no, I think you're pointing the finger at the wrong thing. The reason that Starfield and the reason that Fallout 4 look the way that they do and run the way that they do is because of the creation engine. Nobody's buying it anymore. Nobody's buying what you're selling if you're going to sit here and act like, oh, but the engine lets us do this and that. And no, the average consumer doesn't care about that. They're booting up the game and they're like, I've played better looking games than this. I don't know what's going on here. This doesn't look very good. It happened with Rise of the Ronin. I believe it happened with Starfield. You're describing a game I want sincerely, says Derek. I adore Fallout 4 and both the Horizon games. I want a Starfield type or Fallout 5 game that have the same things just done well. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think for the longest time, I even fell prey to this. I believe that I fell prey to this. I remember telling people to not compare the NPCs of Horizon Forbidden West to Starfield. I believe I was in error when I said that. Because I don't believe if you added a bunch of dialogue lines to Horizon, I don't think that that would suddenly be a challenge, because I actually think a lot of the characters in that game are automated. I don't think they mocapped every NPC that you encounter. Like when they're standing there and they're like, "Where are you going, Aloy? Don't you want to stay and have a meal?" I think that's automated. I do. I don't think they went and mocapped all that. So I always defended Starfield's NPCs. I was like, of course they're going to look a little rough around the edges. Of course they're going to look a little wooden and mechanical because of the sheer volume of dialogue lines that are in the game. They have to rely on automation. I always referenced Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy used automation. If you went and talked to any of the NPCs, they were very, animatronic. They kind of stand still. They just kind of do things like this. They shrug their shoulders and they move their eyebrows. Like that's pretty much the extent of what they're doing. And I think that's totally fine. They're just there to deliver narrative points to you. They're not there to create a scene. Like a cinematic where the door busts open and somebody walks in and says, "You betrayed my father." Like, that's not what we're setting up. We're literally just giving you little narrative points to move the story, side quests, or main quests along. I think that's totally fine for a game to do that. But I think if you look at the level of quality in the faces and in the animations that you get in a game like Hogwarts Legacy or Horizon Forbidden West, they're far superior to Starfield, and it's because of the engine. Like, I think that's what gets lost in these debates, is because everybody wants to immediately defend Starfield or immediately defend whatever game it is that they love. And it's like, if the issue is the engine, there's no real reason to talk about the game's quality. It's the tools beneath it that are the issue. Hey, Lono, do you think the next Fallout will have a good story like Fallout 4 Far Harbor DLC? It had really good choices and consequences. I remember really enjoying the Far Harbor DLC. It had a good vibe, it had a good tone. I don't quite remember the story. That was a long time ago. I forget that I probably played that 8 years ago. But I remember enjoying it. I remember having a positive experience. I remember enjoying getting to the docks when you first get there and fighting, and it had like it felt different than the Wasteland, than the traditional Wasteland feel of the main game. So in your opinion, if Obsidian was to make Fallout 5, would you go that route or just let Bethesda handle it? I think that Fallout 5 should be built by somebody else with Bethesda consulting. I think you want Bethesda in the room to help set art direction, to help set tone, to talk about characters, to talk about story. I think if you look at the TV show, it's clear evidence somebody was in the room really helping with Easter eggs, art direction, characters, set design, clothing design. You know what I mean? You want that level of input from a company that's had their hand in Fallout for a while. I think that that's the right choice. Because regardless of how good Fallout 76 was or is now, Bethesda has been hanging out in Fallout for a while. Fallout 3, then Fallout 4, then a bunch of DLC for Fallout 4, then Fallout 76, bunch of DLC and stuff for Fallout 76. I think you want Bethesda in the room. I don't think Obsidian wants to do it, though. Obsidian doesn't need Bethesda's help. They have roots from Fallout 1 and 2. I believe Fallout 1 and 2 were built by other studios, homie. Or do they have a hand? The developers... Oh, weren't there developers from Fallout 1 and 2 that formed Obsidian? Maybe that's why you're saying what you're saying. Okay, let me take that point. Do you honestly think a lot of the same people are there? Right? Do you think some of the developers from Black Isle Studios or the Omni Group that helped form Obsidian, do you think they're still there? Do you think they still have a firm grasp on what Fallout should look and feel like? I think having Bethesda in the room is the right call. And Obsidian doesn't want to do it anyway, so it's kind of a moot point. But let's imagine Obsidian wanted to make the game. The CEO of Obsidian wants to work on another Fallout game. I mean, I saw articles claiming that they had heard Obsidian doesn't want to work on projects of that size. If Obsidian want to build the next Fallout, I say let them. I don't know why you wouldn't let them. Again, put Bethesda in the room to help with art direction and story. I'll buy that time and manpower is the reason why an in-depth RPG experience won't have good character animation or visuals, but not some tech limitation. Right, I'm totally fine that if I'm playing an in-depth RPG with lots of narrative choices and lots of recorded narrative lines, I'm totally okay with more animatronic NPC engagements. That doesn't bother me. If you do really amazing cutscenes to really, establish those excellent, awesome story beats, but when I'm going to a town and I'm talking to the butcher and I'm talking to the barber and then I'm talking to the weapons guy, the weaponsmith, the blacksmith, and I'm talking to all these different guys and all these different girls about different things that they could do for me or different things I could do for them, whether it's quests, side quests, or they're selling items, I'm totally okay if they kind of stand there and they say, "Hey, welcome to my shop. What can I do for you today?" And then they just stand there and stare at you. I'm totally fine with that. It doesn't need to be this high level of, well, I need every NPC to be mo-capped and feel like a real person. But when I get out into the open world and I'm fighting enemies and you've got lighting and color and texture and you're setting a tone and a feel, I don't want it to feel like an old game. And that's the concern with the creation engine, is that it would always feel like a game from a bygone era. Every time I look at Starfield footage, I'm like, put that up against anything else. It just doesn't hold up. It doesn't. Look at this pony hating on Starfield. Seriously, do side-by-side comparisons between Starfield and Cyberpunk. It's not even close. It's not even a matter of subjectivity. Look at the level of detail, the lighting, the textures, the characters. It's not a matter of subjectivity of like, what do you enjoy? If you're just doing analysis of detail and fidelity, it's not even close to games that we're getting in the modern era. And it's because of the engine. That's why it's healthy to have these discussions. It's healthy to admit that, yeah, it feels kind of dated. Yeah, it's not a very graphically impressive game. And then you ask the question, why? Why? Other companies are building games with really large environments and lots of NPCs, and they're seemingly doing a good job. It's the engine. BioWare is probably pretty preoccupied with Dragon Age, right? I don't know if you're going to get BioWare. You're not going to be able to get BioWare to work on a Fallout. Helldivers 2 continues to be the best-selling premium game in the U.S. The game is currently ranked 7th in lifetime dollar sales for a Sony-published title after just 2 months. Oh, I thought the game was dying and losing half of its player base because people don't understand how to read Steam charts. I think In Exile would be a better choice than Obsidian at this time, says Geek Ledger. Obsidian is working on Avowed and The Outer Worlds 2. In Exile is only working on Clockwork Revolution. I don't know enough about In Exile to comment, but I tend to agree with you about Obsidian. Like, Obsidian's busy right now. Now, because, listen, what we're entertaining, and by the way, if you guys are just tuning in, do me a favor. We will have been streaming for about 40 minutes. Smash the like button. Let's set our sights on 200 likes. Let's get some more members here, man. You guys are going to have to hit that goal for Friday night. If you want me to play a Rage game on Friday night, we need 250 members on the week. You already have 60. All right? You chiseled away at it already. That's a great place to be in the middle of the week. You only got 190 left. Split between 3 days. That's not bad. That's only about 60. That's only about 60 members a day. Today, Thursday, and Friday. You get to 180, right? So you need 190. That's easy. That's lightweight work for us. If you've never done a membership on YouTube before and you're like, why would I do a membership? We do extra content for the members. Every day we end the day with a segment called The Writer's Room. You get a behind-the-scenes look into how we pick the shows, the thumbnails, the titles, what gaming news do we gravitate toward, how do we want to talk about it. You get to see the shows come to life, and that's something reserved for members. We also have a members-only Discord, and I do Friday night streams with my wife where we talk and chill with the audience, and then we do a segment with a game. And the incentive this week is I have to play a Rage game. My wife will also play it as well if you guys hit the weekly member goal. So if you're like, I don't really want to click join, or I can't afford a membership right now, smash the like button, hit subscribe. That ensures that you're here. It supports the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. And then you might get a gifted member. People here are very generous. And when that hits 25, every 25 gifteds or every 25 new members, I give 5 back to the community to pay it forward. Eugene says, Fallout 3, New Vegas, Oblivion, Skyrim, all Xbox 360 gen games. Of course, they had to make those type of choices then. They had to figure out a way to turn off the 360 and turn it back on to clear RAM without the player noticing. Yeah, I mean, I think when you go back and you play those games, I mean, if you could time travel, that's what's so interesting about Fallout 4. I don't remember the reception being negative. But like as time went on, anytime I brought out Fallout 4, people would be like, oh, it's not very good. Oh, it was rough around the edges. Oh, it was buggy. Oh, the modders saved it. And I was like, I thought Fallout 4 was great. What are you talking about? When Madam rages, does she start to speak with the accent? No. Obsidian deserves to make another Fallout game. From Fallout New Vegas to Outer Worlds, they've done what their fans expect, and these titles were good, so Bethesda needs to let them... I want to see what they could do. I mean, I actually kind of agree that the Outer Worlds proves that they would be a good studio to hand it to. I think Outer Worlds 2 is... I have high hopes for that game. Outer Worlds 1, I remember we did a bunch of stuff with that. I forget how many times we played it. We ended up walking away from it because I was doing like a character. We were doing Francis Forehead, and it just didn't work. Like that was back when I was trying to do more planned, segmented content, and it just didn't work. But I remember thinking that the game was excellent. I really liked it. And I felt the entire time like it reminded me a little bit of Fallout. It reminded me a little bit of BioShock. Like it was a good blend of games that I had played. You know, maybe even a little bit of Mass Effect, like taking your ship and going back to a place and going around and talking to all the NPCs and making choices. Like I liked it. I had a good time with it. Obsidian already said that they would love to do another Fallout. They're just super busy. Well, again, I don't know what the direct quote was. It was, and it might have been a clickbait article. So let's see what this claim is about Obsidian and Fallout 5 or Fallout in general. Because I had an article that essentially said Obsidian is unlikely to make the next Fallout. Now, maybe that's the next Fallout. Perfect image with a $5 super chat tip. Super tat chip. It's not the engine, it's the DLSS, VRR, Ray Trace, etc. that support the engine. Sony has their own engine and supports it well. You're going to have to flesh out what you mean. I feel like the creation engine's the issue, not all the things that you listed. So it says here, Obsidian is said to be unlikely candidate for the next Fallout as it sticks to its own projects instead. This comes from Start Menu's editor-in-chief, Lex Luddy, who made this claim on yesterday's Giant Bomb podcast. Here, Luddy backs up podcast host Jeff Grubb's claims that there were discussions about getting Obsidian on another Fallout game. However, she adds the studio was reluctant as it now wants to back away from larger scale projects. Quote, I can't say that the discussion Grubb brought up years ago of Obsidian being approached about Fallout New Vegas 2, that did happen, says Luddy. I also know that it wasn't just Bethesda being like, hey, we don't want someone else making this game. It was also partly Obsidian going, that would be a huge scale for us, and we have backed away from. She adds, there's currently no Fallout in development. It is very unlikely that Obsidian are going to be the people to make the next Fallout. I don't know. That's a fairly new article. That's a fairly new, statement that's being made. That Obsidian's like, no, that we don't. Because you have to think, if you're going to make the next Fallout, you're committing the entire studio to. There's no way it would be less than 5 years. You're committing the studio to 5 years minimum of that's all you're talking about. That's all you're thinking about. And if the studio has their own vision and their own things they want to do with something like Avowed or The Outer Worlds 2, it's going to be really hard to get that entire studio behind, well, let's build another Fallout, especially if a lot of the studio now, depending on how much the studio staff has changed, what if they don't have any attachment or nostalgia about New Vegas because they weren't there, they didn't help build it? They might be like, no, I'm more passionate about The Outer Worlds. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. The CEO wants to do another Fallout before he retires. Okay, well, that wouldn't be the next one then. I guess that's the point, right? The point is not that Obsidian would never do it. The point is that whoever's going to build the next one, it honestly to me sounds like the next Fallout will not be built by Bethesda and it wouldn't be built by Obsidian. Xbox and Microsoft are going to try to find somebody to build it. Now, the concern there would be is that Microsoft gets very corporate about it and says, you remember what happened with The Last of Us. The Last of Us TV show is super popular, and then they rush the PC port, trying to capitalize on the popularity of the TV show, and it's the worst PlayStation PC port to date. Yes, they fixed it, but it still to date will be, I think, the worst. I don't think they're going to ever do that again. I think they're going to use Nixus and other people to make sure that you get a very, very good port. So, it ain't going to be Bethesda, and it ain't going to be Obsidian. Microsoft could get very corporate and think the same thing. We got to capitalize on the popularity of this TV show. We need Fallout 5 in 4 years, right? If you're doing a season of Fallout every other year or once a year, they might try to time it, Imagine Fallout as a TV series. Maybe their rough sketch is that they're going to do 4 seasons. Well, they could be like, okay, that's 3 more seasons. We could stagger the 4th, maybe do a movie. We could time all that with a game. And they might be literally saying internally right now, we want Fallout 5 in 4 years. We want a new Fallout game. Now, in between then and now, you can do remakes and remasters, right? Welcome back, Brian31 with a VIP. Jake says it's definitely not going to be a Fallout 5 that we get first. It'll be some sort of spin-off. Well, Todd seemed to indicate there were Fallout projects in development. I don't know if it would be spin-offs. I could certainly see them doing a remaster or a remake of Fallout 3. I could see that. I could see them doing that. Yeah, Fallout Shelter's having a massive explosion right now since the show. I didn't include that in the talk show because it wasn't really in the purview of the journey of Fallout and who builds the next one, because it's a mobile game. It's not really a part of the equation or the discussion. But with respect to Fallout having a resurgence, that game has had a massive boost in its engagement and its microtransactions. You think the projects are remasters? I would hope for a remake, but I guess you wouldn't necessarily need to remake it. You could just go in if it's in the creation engine. Is Fallout 3 in the creation engine? I'm assuming that it is. I don't think, has Bethesda ever built a game not in the creation engine? So if it's just in the creation engine, I guess they just go and update all of the assets, all of the textures, and basically make it feel about as good as Starfield felt. Because Starfield does feel quite a bit better than Fallout 4 with respect to movement and shooting. They did improve some of those things. The problem is, and this is what a lot of people do, I think this is the mistake people make with Starfield, is they compare it to other Bethesda games. Or they compare it to other Creation Engine games. And a 5-bomb comes in from Brian31, and he says, come on, boys, let's move this line. Member gifts and new members have slowed down. You guys went crazy last week, and you got Creature to play Fall Guys. Everybody's taking a breather. I understand. You guys lost your minds on Friday. The gifted members were a little wild. Good to see you, David. You asked how I was doing. I'm doing great, man. Thank you for asking. A remaster of New Vegas would be the best route since the show and the game are both set in the same terrain. Remastered New Vegas with the graphics and the gameplay of Fallout 4 or even Starfield would slap. You know what's weird is I would probably be more interested in playing a remastered New Vegas or a remastered Fallout 3 just because of the notoriety and the history. It's like, okay, I false started. I don't even remember which one I false started with. I think it was probably Fallout 3. Or maybe it was New Vegas. I had a complete false start with one of those games. I remember trying to play it. I believe it was on my 360. And I played it for a couple of hours. I finally got out of the vault. And I was running around on some dirty hillside. I had nothing. And I was like, I just want to play Borderlands. And I went back and I just went and started a fresh playthrough of Borderlands 1. It just made me want to play Borderlands. Because I wasn't a real big RPG guy. The first lengthy, sort of more traditional, more deep RPG that I played was Skyrim. Like, I never really got into games like that. Anything about the vault? It was dark. And I remember getting in a gunfight right before I left. That was Fallout 3. Yeah, I false started with 3. I didn't understand it. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. It just made me want to go play Borderlands. And I did. Yeah, I got outside and I think stuff just started killing me or something was chasing me or I can't remember. I just remember being like, I don't like this. I wasn't a real RPG guy, too much reading. Well, it's interesting how, like, the games you play influence what you end up wanting to play. And I just never spent a lot of time in those games. Old school Final Fantasy or Final Fantasy VII, I gravitated towards games where there was more action. Like, when I built my first PC, it was because I wanted to play Quake 2 with my friends. You know, and then Quake 3. And then Unreal Tournament, and then Call of Duty. And then I played Call of Duty way too much and way too often. And then I gravitated towards games like Borderlands. So there was not like a preliminary bridge or a set of train tracks for me to be like, oh, I get what's going on here. I need to do this, 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 and this. Like, was the Overseer a massive this? Was there tunnel snakes? I don't remember. Okay. My wife's letting me know that they made it. A quick feedback from the live audience. Quick feedback. If you guys saw the thumbnail, maybe you came from YouTube on a suggest. Maybe you came from YouTube on a search. Did the words live discussion on the thumbnail or the description of the video, what did that do for you? Did it make you click? Did you notice it? What were your thoughts on that? Did you react to it in any way at all? Would be my question. Just curious, because I did try that today as well, trying to distinguish between the video upload and this is the live discussion. Just curious if you guys saw that or not. Yo, Micah with a 5-spot super chat. I think Phil could make Bethesda make a next Fallout or Fallout remake remaster like a StarCraft would be remade by Blizzard. I like the live discussion tag. It made me want to be live to discuss absolutely nothing. Okay. It made you wet. Okay. Not the intended response, but, this is not OnlyFans, but hey, no particular response. It made me click because we're talking Fallout 3 seemed to add clutter. Yeah, I don't like it. I did it as an experiment, but I don't like it. I feel like it's too much on the thumb. I'm not a fan. I prefer it just to be Fallout 5 without Bethesda, and that's it. Like, just asking for a little bit of feedback on a change I've tried there. David says, there are two huge things that Fallout 4 added that hooked me. The settlement system and the overhaul of how power armor works. I loved that. Well, I mean, I think, and this is probably why Bethesda fans not all, but some Bethesda fans didn't fully agree with me about Fallout 4. Because Fallout 4 hooked me, and it was, I think they streamlined stuff. They made it more approachable. And I think longstanding fans were like, this has been dubbed down, this has been casualified. There's an element, I think, of if you are attracted to a game because they've made it more approachable, you're probably going to interact with people who say, no, this isn't hashtag not my Fallout. Now, I'm not saying people went that extreme. I'm just sort of saying, like, that's the spirit of it, right? The spirit of it is this isn't Fallout. They've dumbed this down, like, or it's buggy, it's glitchy. Like, at that point, maybe the Bethesda charm was starting to wear off with some people. They were like, this isn't really, this is not acceptable. I want to go look at the comments on the upload from today. So if you guys respond to my uploads and my premieres, you might get included in the show here. This guy is saying that the Rings of Power had fake numbers. They all are. Fallout happened to be very good, but the reported numbers cannot be trusted, especially from Amazon. Source or proof? Like, what are you talking about? Why would we... I don't think you can... Couldn't you get in some serious trouble if you boast about viewership that's not true? Couldn't Amazon... I mean, I'm not saying Amazon is as pure as the driven snow, but I'm fairly certain that that's something that could be either falsified, proven to be false, or subsequently get you in a lot of trouble. I don't know. I'm asking. That my instinct is to say I don't think you would do that. I think you could get yourself into some hot water if you do that. You just like, we had this many viewers, and it's like, no, you didn't. I think that's a quick road to having people, either investigate or give you a phone call. What is this? What is this company that keeps what? They want us to promote an air fryer. All right, fine. All right, I'll reply to you. All right. Would you send me one? Our Helldivers Updates channel is doing so well, we're getting sponsored offers. I was like, so they want like a sponsored segment about an air fryer. It's like, well, if you send it to me and I use it, it's awesome. I mean, I guess I'll give you a minute on a video. I don't freaking care. Perfect image with the $5 super chat chip. I did it again. A super chat tip. Graphical software needs updated to Unreal 5 and other engines. Sony figured it out. First super chat, VRR ray trace to give 60. I'm not a tech expert, but I think you're oversimplifying it. You'd think if you just switch to Unreal, everything's fine. Unreal 5 is showing itself to be a bit of a clunker. Like, it's getting better. But, I mean, I don't know. You can't just switch to Unreal 5 and all your problems go away, or all of a sudden you get better performance. Good night. Look at Lords of the Fallen. Look at Hellblade 2. I don't think it's that simplistic. Super Tat Chip. Why do I keep saying that? Listen, I'm having a problem saying Super Chat Tip today. So I need you guys to convert all Super Chat Tips into gifted members instead, okay? I'll read your messages. Just pay it forward to other people. You're supporting me either way. I appreciate your respect during this time, this trying time for me, in saying super chat tip. They will only send you one if you promote Raid Shadow Legends. It's them in disguise. Surprise, motherfucker! Like, you want this air fryer? You got to do a Raid Shadow Legends trailer. And I'm like, they got me. And then, like, I do the Raid Shadow Legends sponsor, like eating some chicken from the air fryer, and I'm like, it was worth it. A 2-spot from True Witty. Fallout 4, the fans hated the voice player. Right, that's another thing, True Witty. I didn't come from Fallout 3 in New Vegas with expectations, so my guy talking didn't bother me. Has Lono's inability to pronounce things correctly been a long con? It has, yeah. A 2-spot from Lone Wolf says, well, that's too damn bad. Come on. Butcher left a comment on the Fallout 5 upload, moving past Bethesda. He says, Phil Spencer is not going to take Fallout from Todd Howard. They aren't smart enough, and their egos are too big. They will, if it means Fallout 5 releases sooner because of the TV show. Think about that, dude. I don't think C-suite execs, Microsoft, none of these guys, you honestly think Satya Nadella has got to be looking at the results of the Fallout TV show? He picked up the phone and he said, what do we have to do to get a new Fallout game in the market as soon as possible? That phone call happened. I have zero doubts in my mind. That came across his desk. That showed up in an email, and he said, oh, so successful that it's billed for a second season already. It's the second most successful show on that platform, and rising, probably rising. It's having a direct impact on the sales and the player engagement of old games. How fast can we get a new Fallout in the market? If that conversation didn't happen, I'd be surprised. Check your shorts comments, Lono. You made about Fallout or something. Forgot what it was. Oh, did you leave a comment there, Lushy? 8-Bit Pro on the Fallout upload says, I still think the next Fallout should be on a different engine. The possibilities are huge. Agreed. True Witty on the upload says, I think Bethesda should use Unreal 4. UE4 better than UE5 at this point. I agree with you. Do you think the success of Fallout could lead to a Gears TV show? Yeah. I thought they were already talking about doing a Gears TV show. I don't know why you wouldn't. Can we just get Dave Bautista? Like, what are we doing? Yeah, why would you? What's happening? Why is that not already a show? Why haven't I already watched that? The armor would be super easy to build. Fallout proves it. The Fallout TV show proves you could mimic the armor very easily. The Gears armor's iconic. You get Dave Bautista, and then you ship that, dude. What are we doing? UE4 is terrible for open world. Is it? UE4 open world games. Let's see here. Well, Fortnite was an open world Unreal game. I mean, not the greatest example, but let's scroll through here and see if we can't find any. I don't know, was Dragon Quest XI considered open world? PUBG was open world. Batman Arkham City, Return to Arkham. Ark Survival Evolved. Conan Exiles. Gears 5. Gears 5 was quasi-open world. It's literally a Digital Foundry ongoing meme. Really? I mean, Borderlands 3 wasn't exactly open world, but it was like more open area. Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is open world. Unreal 4. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was not open world. It was more like open area. Hellblade, same deal. and then Fortnite. Sounds like a dev problem to me. I read plenty of games right there that I would consider to be perfectly good games that were open world and used UE4. Traversal stutter is terrible in UE4. Is that why Fortnite always had those problems with hitches and stutters all those times? I remember that. That was super annoying. Okay, so don't use Unreal 4. The point is that, well, I don't know. Maybe by now, have they not figured it out by now? I feel like the last couple of games or the last couple of things that we've seen have been in Unreal 4 instead of Unreal 5. They've been significantly better. Fallout 4 Next Gen runs perfect 60 on both consoles. It wasn't doing that the day that I played. There's an issue inherent to the engine that causes the stutter. And it's never been figured out? What? There was a game recently, I swear there was a game recently that we were like, Unreal 4 is great. Why don't more people use Unreal 4? They're all jumping Unreal 5 and it's causing problems. Yeah, Decima would be good, but that would never happen. I mean, I use that as an example in the video, but, you know, what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to get the rights to it or the license to use it. I mean, I'm assuming... Oh, and Hen Revens... Nobody said that you were dishonest for saying that Fallout 4 was getting 60. You lied, and you never backed up your lie, because you said that you were getting 120 FOV 4K 60. Would you like me to paste your comment? I can paste your comment. Would you like that? I have chat history here. Let's just go ahead and put that in the chat. I'd recommend trying the Xbox version. I'm playing at 120 FOV with graphics setting perfect 64K. Should we revisit that claim? Because that's what we were engaging with. And the day that I tried out the next gen update, I was not getting consistent 60 on either system. So... Nobody called you dishonest for saying you could get 60 or people were getting 60. You said something that was ridiculous, and it's in chat right now for all to see. This guy says, give Fallout 5 to Obsidian and change the engine to UE5. I mean, that'd be dope. Pulling receipts. I mean, I don't even need to pull receipts. Before I even went to his chat activity, I was like, oh, wait, I remember you. Got to get up a little earlier in the morning to get one over on me, brother. I've got pretty good memory. I've been doing this for 9 years. You don't get to do this whole, well, you said it, I said. No. There's a history of people trying to pull gotcha with me, and their track record's a zero. They don't ever do it. They always try and do it. They always try to come in and say, well, you said this and I said that. It's like, no. 120 FOV. Like a fisheye. 120 FOV. I can see behind me. What are you doing? I play with 150 FOV because it's the best way to see your own rear end in a first-person game. It's awesome. I actually see back and around and through my head. It's first person. It's FFPS. It is the premium way to play. Not that you got to get up early line. Listen. I don't really get into rap battles, but if you want to be Drake, you know, I can be Kendrick. If that's the way you want to take this, keep going. It'll be fun for me. It'll be more fun for me than you. I think, in my opinion, Fallout London will never be released. Oh, I think they'll release it. I think they put too much work into it to not release it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't necessarily think that... I don't think they would just be like, well, I'm going to not do this. it's just going to take time. There's too much. They put too much work into it. In your short, you said Todd has to adapt for Elder Scrolls to become 60 FPS. Do you want that to be the standard for the general titles that are upcoming? If you plan on releasing a game in 4 to 5 years and it's not 60 FPS, then sit down and be quiet. I don't even want to hear from you. Like, what are we even talking about? Okay, Lono, listen. I don't even listen to either artist, but I had to listen. And I said to myself, that was devastating. I didn't even get all the references, but I could tell. I was like, yeah. That's called nuking the site from orbit. That was kind of the end of it. I was like, I don't know, man. And everybody's like, no, it's just getting started. I was like, okay. You ever see those fight videos where the guy gets knocked out, but he's on the ground going like this, and he's like putting his hands out straight. He thinks he's still standing, right? And he's like, his hands are doing this. It's like when a puppy's dreaming that they're running. Yeah. That's what I feel like the next track's going to sound like. It's like he doesn't know yet. That guy's, you've ever seen those videos? Those guys are on the ground and their arms are just like straight in front of them, you know? And they're, the lights are on, but nobody's home, dude. Their hands are just kind of moving. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what just happened. Anyway, a 5-bomb comes in from V-Game Veteran, dude. Thank you so much. That's halfway point. 12 out of 25. Let's keep it going. Thank you, V-Game Veteran. Yeah, you did K ... Trill. You did, yeah, I thought you tried to post a link. Did his thing for sure. That's the fencing response, usually concussion. Yeah. The person doesn't know that they've been knocked out. In their mind, they're still standing. And they're still swinging, and they're not. I guess what I did, I said I got to the end of that track, and I was like, yeah, well... that hurt. I don't even understand half of what he's referring to, but I can tell that hurt. You know, it's like watching somebody do a version of Taekwondo, and you don't know what all the moves are, but you know that it hurt really bad to get hit by them, right? That's what I felt like I witnessed. I felt like I witnessed. You know, you watch those videos and some guy's like, I'm going to demonstrate a fighting style. It's ancient and newly discovered. And he goes into all the details. You're like, oh, cool. I've never seen this before. And he's just like, wham, wham, wham. And then the guy's like, laying on the ground twitching. And you're like, I don't understand what I just watched, but I know that hurt. That's what it felt like to listen to that. That's what it felt like to listen to Euphoria. I was like, it's like in the Matrix where also Neo keeps switching fighting styles. I was like, wait, what just happened? The song, is this a different song? No, it's the same song, but he just changed his fighting stance. You know what I'm saying? He changed his fighting stance like 8 times in the song. It was impressive. This guy's saying to fire this person. I'll let that one through. This would be a dream come true. Okay, I had to approve a couple of messages on the upload. If you guys haven't seen the upload yet, the opening monologue today was Fallout 5. Moving past Bethesda. Thank you for the great response to that video in the comments. We appreciate it very, very much. Are you going to have to Google it? I mean, you could just Google Kendrick Lamar Euphoria. You'll find it. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up, but I did. I don't know how we did. I'm old and a fan of Hit 'em Up. What? Nothing beats the morning monologue. That's right. Good to see you, Mario Heat. I was trying to pop my neck. Like right there. There it is. Chris F says, I'll be back in 6 minutes. So back to the Fallout discussion. Right. Yeah, let me go to the short. You said you left me a comment on Let's see. Is Todd Howard the problem? Let me see here, Lushy. You said you left a comment here? I don't see it. Did I already respond to you? I don't see it. Let me go new. I don't see it. A 2-spot from Perfect Image. Look at the engine that gives 60 FPS and see I'm right. Okay. Let me engage with what you're saying, Perfect Image, because I think this is a worthy discussion, okay? First and foremost, the reason that Starfield is not 60 FPS is not just because of the engine. And the reason we can say this is because Starfield can hit 60 FPS on a PC, okay? So the engine is in the room. It is certainly part of the equation, right? There are very agile, very adaptable, very optimizable engines that you can put on like a potato and they run really, really well, okay? So, point being, just because you switch from Creation Engine to, let's say, Unreal 5, there are games in the market right now showing that that's not a silver bullet. That doesn't automatically give you great performance. That doesn't automatically give you 60 FPS. So I'm not saying you're incorrect. I think you're just being too reductionist about it. You're like, yeah, just switch engine and you'll get 60 FPS. That's not true at all. I'll give you another great example. Hellblade 2 is coming out this month, and it's not 60 FPS on the consoles, and it's Unreal 5. Now, they're going to claim they made creative decisions. We're going to get a bunch of hand-waving. You know, well, that was a creative decision that the developers made, and and it's like, okay, sure. Lono continue on building his cookout invite. I've been done, already got an invite. What are you talking about? I'm working on the second one. I want to come back next week. You know what I'm saying? I want to come back next month. You know? Now, maybe I've not achieved 4th of July cookout invite, but you know what I'm saying? I'm going for the second invite. It's the graphic side. That's not what I'm saying. Oh, you're saying graphics. Well, I mean, again, you could switch engines and still not have a better looking game than Starfield. Again, I'm not saying that you are wrong. I'm just saying you're being extremely simplistic about it to the point that, like, I'm just adding some nuance to what you're saying. You can't simply switch engines and automatically get like, oh, this game's photorealistic. Oh, this game looks better. No. I mean, there have been plenty of games that have come out in engines that don't look very good or don't run very well. You know? But are you allowed to bring any food to the cookout? Are you trying to get kicked out the minute you get there? What are you talking about? Why would you do that? You can bring cups or ice. Lono, I get it. You like the Fallout IP, and you want a Fallout game that has more of the things you care about and less Bethesda-style priorities, touching all the things. Is that correct? I didn't even get into that, Cisco. I didn't even get into that. I stayed very 30,000 feet. I stayed very 30,000 feet in the monologue. I said, listen, you would get a better game. It would come out faster. If you want to get into the specifics, like if you want to get into the specifics of like, yeah, napkins or something. Come on, dude. Bring food. If you want to get the specifics of like, do I need to pick up every cup? Do I need to open up every cabinet and have there be a can of soup and a pair of scissors and a bobby pin? No. Now, there are going to be people that say that's not Fallout. And you know what I'm going to say to them? Every game has to make the decision when they decide to leave certain things behind. This happened with Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla. Okay. I don't think you can keep saying no, we must. If you have the skill trees, if you have a loot table, I do think you want a vast loot table. I'm okay with going into the living room of a house or going into the garage or going into a town or whatever, a bunker, and I'm picking a bunch of stuff up and then I'm using those things. I'm totally fine with that. But I don't think we need this object permanence. There's 1,000 coffee cups in one building. I think you can rein that in significantly and still achieve. You can still achieve it feeling like a Fallout game. Does that make sense? Like, I think they go so full with something that was extremely cool in Skyrim, and it was extremely cool in Fallout 3 and 4. It was like, this is really neat. It's not neat anymore, dude. Yeah, you can have me picking up stuff, and you can have me using that stuff to craft. Sure. That's fine. But I don't need to go into a single room and have there be 100 individual items to pick up. It's just overboard. I don't know. It ends up becoming like, okay, I'll give you an example, because I just was playing Fallout 4 the other day, and I went into like 2 or 3 houses, and I was literally just like immediately kind of turned off by that part of it. I was like, I don't want to pick all this stuff up, because I know if I pick all this stuff up, eventually I'm going to become overburdened. Eventually I'm going to have a mess of crap in my inventory that's just a sea of nonsense to comb through, and the UI is just not really built for it. It's very, it's very utilitarian. It almost feels like they just took the background dev build of how to manage inventory and then put it in the Pip-Boy. So you're not a crafter? I got into crafting later in the game, yes. I just don't think... I don't think you would have to get rid of crafting because you limit the number of items in an area. Do you know what I'm saying? Or maybe just decide that you're not going to have those items have weight. That would completely change it for me. They're not going to have weight. You can carry as much as you want. Maybe you limit how many. Maybe you limit weight with respect to armor classification, armor durability, armor defense, and then your weapons. I'm not against crafting. I'm not against a game having stuff for you to pick up for crafting. There are plenty of games with crafting that don't have 18 coffee cups in one office building that I can pick up. It doesn't need to be that extreme. I've played plenty of games where I grab a bunch of stuff and then I use it for crafting. I'm not saying that they should remove it. I'm just saying I think you could trim it down quite a bit. Pretty cool for game night. Later this year, a new PS5 feature will let you invite players into a multiplayer session by generating a shareable link from PS5. Huh? It says, invite anyone by sharing a link from your mobile device. I don't understand. So you would tweet it or send or put the link in Discord or something? And what I don't understand what they would do. Oh, they would join from the app. Oh, I see. Hang on. My brain just went into like 8 different directions. Give me a second. Yeah, that feels... Yeah. Yeah, that's a bridge. That's a bridge between PC and the console, isn't it? So if you're trying to play Tsushima online... Yeah, I wonder... Do you think that works with Tsushima crossplay? I wonder. If I send you the invite through the mobile app and then you click accept and you're up and loaded in Tsushima with your profile on Steam, would you join me? I wonder if that's a bridge. Are they building that bridge already? Is this another signal of the push into PC and maybe even having their own PC launcher? That's what it feels like to me. Like, think about it. If you're sitting at your PlayStation and I'm sitting at my PlayStation, why would I use the app to invite you to play with me? Right? Like, using the app signals something. That feels like it's signaling a change. Or at least, pushing toward a change. A 2-spot. Look at GTA on the Rage Engine example, 60 FPS optimized. Yeah, I don't think I've ever disagreed with you. Perfect image. I'm just saying you initially made it sound like, well, if they switch to Unreal, they'll get 60. And I just don't think it's that simplistic. Yo, guys, a little bit ago, Javier Cotto said, let's get 300 likes. You guys know who that is, right? That's Javier Cotto. And he says, we need more likes on the video. Let's set our sights on 300 likes. If you guys haven't taken the time to do that, if you've been lurking and listening, if you enjoy the fact that the channel is safe for work and you listen throughout the week, smashing that like button is a free and easy way to support the video. It helps more people find the video. And thank you guys so much for a nice big day on the channel. The upload's doing very well. So thank you to everybody who piled into that premiere this morning. When you guys get in there and the chat's buzzing and you're smashing the like button, all those things are helpful. Thank you so much for doing that. Oh, you don't have to be friends. You could put a link in the Discord and we could just join. I still go with what Jaden's saying, Eugene. It's another step to a unified service. They're creating an idea of, is it really that difficult to be like, what's your PSN? Let me add you as a friend. Like, they're removing that step, sure, but they're also creating something that is a bridge. That feels like a bridge to me. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying, as soon as I looked at it, and as soon as I looked at their blog, and I saw the way that it worked through the app, I said, this is designed for crossplay. This is designed to help with crossplay. Sure, it'll help with what you're saying. Sure. Why am I interacting with you in an environment where I need to send you a link to use the app to join me? Right? Yo, what's good? Bushin Ryu Cat, how are you? I don't see the point in the link. I mean, it would be helpful for streamers for sure. You're like, yeah, guys, there's a link in chat. Come join me. You don't got to get their friend's name. You don't got to get their PSN. You don't got to go add them or search for them. You just give them a link. It's like, yeah, click the link. You guys can all join. All the items have object permanence because if you can use them for decoration, selling, crafting, etc., it's not the only charm. Emergent moments and discovery is also huge. It may be easier to send the link than to send a friend request. Wait for it to be accepted and then show up in the join the game. Text form. What is this about? Is this about... Oh, Starfield May update? Looks like we're getting a book show for tomorrow. Xbox Series X display settings for Starfield. Do you guys want to see this? This is probably going to be... I don't want to cannibalize the show tomorrow. So, but this is relevant to today because of everything that we've been talking about. I'll move to the other side. We've heard from many that you'd like to have more control over the graphic fidelity and performance on Xbox, similar to how PC players can customize their experience. We're now enabling that on Xbox Series X with a few options that you can use to find the best fit for your playstyle and display. For each of these, we highly recommend a VRR display running at 120 and to verify your Xbox setup to use it. If you have it set up this way, Starfield will now default to a frame rate target of 40 while keeping the priority for full visuals. This is coming on May the 15th. Frame rate target. You can now choose between 30, 40, 60, or uncapped frame rate on VRR displays. If you do not have a VRR display running 120, you will still be able to select from 30 or 60. Screen tearing may occur at times when you select 60 on a non-VRR display. I wonder why screen tearing would happen. What if your monitor or your TV is set to 60, screen tearing happens when the frame rate exceeds the refresh rate of the monitor, does it not? You can now prioritize between visuals and performance while trying to maintain the frame rate target. If you're choosing a frame rate target of 60 or above, we recommend changing it to performance. Prioritizing visuals keeps the highest resolution while maintaining full detail for special effects, lighting, and crowds. Prioritizing performance lowers internal resolution and detail for special effects, lighting, and crowds. Both modes may adjust internal resolution dynamically when scenes or action get heavier as well. When switching between modes, you will see the lighting change briefly as the system catches up to the new mode. Bug fixes. So they just did some general stability and performance improvements, general improvements of character fleeing, avoidance, pathfinding, fix various issues of object. Okay. I already have my theory on what's going on, but I won't tell you my theory until tomorrow. That's likely going to be the lead for tomorrow, unless something else major is going on. So, oh, buddy, do I have a theory about that. Yeah, I won't tell you my theory until tomorrow. I'm not going to cannibalize my show. So, in about 30 minutes, we're going to go to the writer's room. So let's keep talking here about, what were we talking about? Breaking parity? It's not breaking parity. However, Eugene, this affects your theory about first-party titles having parity. Maybe your theory was correct, but no longer. You know? Screen tearing happens when the frames are below the refresh rate of the monitor. What? No. I've played plenty. When I set a game to 30 FPS, Eugene, and my TV is 60, does the TV drop its refresh rate automatically? I know my monitor and capture card doesn't do that. I've played plenty of games where we're like, yeah, set it to quality, Lono, so we can see the 30, and I do it, and I don't see screen tearing. I thought screen tearing happened when the frame rate exceeded the refresh rate of the monitor. Whenever I would play, and the monitor was set to 60, and the frame rate was hitting like 90 and 100 and all that, I was getting screen tearing. I thought that's how it worked. 30 FPS to 60 is just doubled. It syncs perfectly. Oh, because it's capped at 30, and it's divisible of 60. It's a division. Okay. Screen tearing is when the monitor of the TV can't keep up with the frames what the GPU is outputting. Wait, so it happens in both directions, does it not? If the frames exceed the refresh rate of the TV, you get screen tearing, do you not? It also happens when it falls below. But if I have my everything set to 60 and the frames exceeds the refresh rate of the monitor, I get screen tearing. Yes, both ways. Okay, I was like, I'm losing my mind here. In my experience, that's when I was always getting screen tearing, when it was exceeding 60. I was like, oh gosh. And that's why I turn on VSync for my cap card. It removes the screen tearing. Okay, because it can happen in either direction. It's because they're not synced up. Okay, got it. Thank you. They're abandoning parity? It's not parity. It's not a... I don't want to cannibalize tomorrow. Dadgummit. There's so many points. There's so many things to discuss. We can't do it. You guys have got to help me here. You can't cannibalize that. That's a whole show. There's 8 different discussion points, and I don't want to gobble them all up right now. I don't want to do it. Listen. This is a great reason to become a member, okay? Because we're going to break this down in Writer's Room to establish POV, outline, and my monologue. That's a really, really great reason to be a member. It's a great reason to be here all of the time because you get that sneak peek into what's coming. You can kind of prepare your own talking points, rebuttals, or do your own research, right? It's a great reason to be a member. So let's get to 25. I'll give 5. Join right now. Become a member. Click join. I'm not going to do this in the live environment and cannibalize the show because then the public's like, well, I already know what he thinks. And then there's no reason to show up to the next show. No, you got to let me do what I'm going to do. When we pick a show topic and we stick to the show topic, it has served us very, very well. It really, really has. So, if you were King Todd Howard for a day, who would you put in front of the next Fallout game? If I was in charge and I was choosing somebody to put in charge of the next Fallout game, if we ignore reality, I would put Obsidian in charge. I would. Yeah. I would take one look at Outer Worlds and I would say, you guys can nail it. I think they could absolutely nail it. And I would be totally okay with them using a different engine. I would be totally okay with consulting to get art direction and story beats correct. Yeah, I would pick Obsidian. But the problem right now is that Obsidian is, according to reports, they're more focused on their own projects. They're working on Avowed, obviously, and then there's the Outer Worlds too. So that's not going to happen, unfortunately. So if I can't have Obsidian, then I don't know. I think that's the challenge. Somebody said in Exile, you want somebody who has RPG and also open world chops. Do you know what I'm saying? Because like I think of the Coalition, and I'm like, man, Coalition's probably doing great work with Gears. I don't know if that translates into an open world RPG. Read my super chat. I did. I said, look at GTA on Rage Engine 4. I read that. And I responded and said that I don't think I've been disagreeing with you. I've just been adding nuance. You know, what's in Exile studio size? No. Not the actual size of the physical and employee count. In Exile has roughly 130 employees. All right. Obsidian, 283. Yo, Patrick Q gifts a member and takes us to 13. Come on, y'all. Let's get a little single train going. Let's hit that 25. You guys need 60. You basically need 60 members today, Thursday, and Friday to hit the weekly goal. That's it. Just 60. That's super, super doable. Playground. I think Playground has to prove themselves with Fable before I'd hand them Fallout. We listen. We know nothing about that Fable project other than the fact that they've lost people and the fact that we heard rumors they were having issues with the engine, and we got a cinematic trailer and I would say simulated gameplay. That's gameplay. If you think that's gameplay, great. I'm happy that you're so easily fooled by the same tricks and smoke and mirrors that game companies have been pulling on us for literally 20 years. But that wasn't gameplay, dude. It wasn't. No. We have been here before. Stop being so easily fooled. I think that Playground hasn't proven that they can build a game like that. Yo, a single from Keithius and a single from Risic puts us at 15 out of 25. That's a 10-bomb dunker setup. Stonespire bumps it to 16. That's now an Agents of Chaos 10-bomb. We'll see if anybody takes the bait from Stonespire. How many other studios that are under Bethesda umbrella could do it? Yeah, my worry about In Exile is that they're small. They're not a very large studio. To build Fallout 5, they have 130 employees. Only 70 of those are full-time, according to this report. Now, that was in 2018. Maybe they're larger now. Risic gifts another one and takes us to 17. Thank you, Risic. Let me familiarize myself with some of their games. In Exile has done Bard's Tale, Wasteland. Sadiqua gifts a member and takes us to 18. Listen, if the big boys aren't going to show up and drop bombs, we don't need them, man. We'll just do singles. Yeah, I mean, In Exile is working on Clockwork, Revolution, and they've done games like Wasteland 3 and Bard's Tale and Wasteland 2. I mean, hang on a second. Let me go to Steam for Wasteland 3. I just don't know. Wasteland's RPG, it's turn-based, it's post-apocalyptic. I don't know if they would be able to handle something the size and the scope of Fallout 5. I really don't. A single from Stonespire and a single from Risic. There it is, 20 out of 25. That's a 5-bomb. Somebody's going to let somebody steal the goal, the glory, I should say. Wasteland's very Fallout. Yeah, but it's top-down. It's top-down turn-based RPG. Like, you know what I mean? You want them building Fallout 5? Fallout 5 will be Bethesda. Fallout, fill in the blank, will be another studio. No doubt in my mind. No, I think there's a very high likelihood that Fallout's built by another studio, Jake, if for one reason only. Microsoft likes money. I don't think Microsoft's going to sit around and be like, no, that's fine. Build Elder Scrolls 6 and then build Fallout 5. That's okay. We can wait that long. We just had an explosively popular viral TV show that's now interwoven into the meme culture of gaming. Like Okie Dokie and all the images that people are using. That game is... You remember what Helldivers did? You remember Helldivers like infected the hive mind of the gaming world with memes and jokes? Fallout was top down. Oh, it was? Who built Fallout 1 and 2 and who built Fallout 3? Jake. You're proving my point. They didn't tap the team that built Fallout 1 and 2 that was doing the top-down to build Fallout 3. When they wanted to change it to open-world RPG, the Bethesda did it. Machine Games will be freed up after Indie. Okay. Machine Games. Let's do an employee count. Oh. Come on, Google. They're around 200 employees, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what would our games? Yeah. Wolfenstein, and they collaborated on Doom. No. Listen, that's the challenge here. The challenge is you're going to have an impetus from Microsoft. You're going to have an impetus from Xbox to say, we want a Fallout game sooner than later. We want the next Fallout. Okay, I think that's a fair assumption to make. That Xbox and Microsoft are not going to be like, no, yeah, we'll wait to get Fallout 5 until, 2032. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they're going to wait that long. But the tension is that if you start looking at a lot of these other devs, I don't think they're equipped to handle Fallout. I don't think that they are. It's quite literally a handful of studios that could handle it, whether it's Obsidian or I just don't know. You got to go to people that this is something that they've done before to a certain degree. Throwing out shooter devs is not the answer. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think you're going to get some first-person shooter dev to handle it. Now, you could have somebody like id Software consult so that the shooting feels really, really good. This competency can't be acquired? No. Because the complexity and the size and the scope of the systems that go into a game like Fallout, I don't think you can just say, hey, can you guys figure this out? You have literal teams that are accustomed to building out the dialogue trees, and then the dialogue trees have to have impact on the questing. And the dialogue trees and the questing have to have impact on the narrative, because now all these other NPCs are going to react differently to you. Like, I don't think you can just have some other company figure that out. Just the dialogue, the systems integration of you've got your systems of dialogue, questing, and narrative. All of that has to work together. You've probably, I would imagine, if you're Bethesda, you have homebrew tools and systems and teams that just know how to do all of that. They know how all that works. Acquired, does that mean bought as in people and companies? Teams that have never built a side quest in their life can't build a Fallout game. Yeah, it's almost like you'd have to subcontract the questing and the dialogue systems and all of that. You'd almost have to subcontract that literally to Bethesda and have some other company that's really good at like engine and guns and loot tables. You'd have to be a collaborative effort. I don't think you can just hand this to another studio wholesale. I don't think you can. I think you pick a new engine, you get a team that's amazing at open world and shooter, and then you have them collaborate with teams at Bethesda. And then this becomes a challenge because we know Bethesda is currently working on getting Starfield into a more respectable position, but they're also going to start working on the Elder Scrolls 6. I just see Fallout 5 as Todd's final game. Not saying he won't get the game sooner, but given his age, Carrier Fallout 5 will be his final game. It's not up to him, Jake. It's not up to him. I think he's going to feel the same sting in his pride and his ego that Pete Hines felt, which is why he left. He's like, I'm getting the frick out of here. I don't want to work for this company. It's not up to Todd. If Phil Spencer or Satya Nadella walk in the room and say, we need a Fallout 5 and we need it on this timeline, how are you going to do that? Todd does not get to say, but this is my dream project, and I want this to be the project I retire with. They're going to say, we don't give a frick about your sentimentality. We got a show that's breaking records, and we have it billed for a second season, likely third, maybe fourth season, whatever. You know, I'm imagining the conversation. We need Fallout 5 out sooner than later. Who owns Bethesda? Microsoft. Microsoft's going, there's literally no equation here where Microsoft says, that's fine, Todd. You can ship Fallout 5 by the time 2032 or 3 rolls around. That's fine. We want you to have that sentimental retirement gift. Yo, Crow Quill, thanks so much for jumping back in as a member. Had it gifted for a month and now it expired, purchasing my own. Hey, Crow Quill, that's exactly what we want to see in here, man. We want to see people getting that gifted, getting the sample of the content in the community, and then jumping in on their own. You're making room for somebody else that can't afford a membership right now. Thank you. Wasn't Starfield supposedly Todd Howard's magnum opus? Ain't no way he thinks that now. What a crap industry. If Todd Howard doesn't get any say, why would anyone ever want to get into that industry? Jake, I'm fairly certain you lean Xbox, so I don't want to project onto you. But do you remember all the conversations and coverage and things that I said about Microsoft being acidic to creative process, and it's not an Xbox problem, it's a Microsoft problem, and people that were in favor of the Activision deal needed to look beyond Xbox and needed to look at Microsoft? Do you remember when I said that? Do you remember when I covered Pete Hines retiring and I said, I'm pretty sure Pete Hines is angry. I'm pretty sure he mentioned 24 years multiple times in a row. You lean PC. Well, I know you PC guys commonly, though, are very much taking up the green flag momentarily. It's common, okay? Todd Howard definitely has a say. He doesn't have final say. He doesn't have final say. If I'm telling you right now, that's how these corporations think. None of this is hate. None of this is fear-mongering. If you think Satya Nadella is going to sit by idly and watch a ripe IP wither on the vine while the show is kicking tail, you think he's just going to sit there? No. He picked up that phone. He said, Phil, you meet with Bethesda. You meet with whoever you got to meet with. We have to capitalize on this. Look at the surge of players in really old games. We need a Fallout to come to the market sooner than later. And that doesn't mean we cannot wait for the Elder Scrolls 6. No. Absolutely not. I want results, Phil. That's how these guys talk. Don't you give me excuses. Don't you give me sentimentality. I want results. We have a red hot item right now, and we are not going to sit back so that they can build the Elder Scrolls because they're sentimental about Fallout 5. There ain't no C-suite in the world that gives a rip about that. That's why when Todd said in the interview, like, they're open to the idea. He said it's always part of the conversation. He didn't say that haphazardly. It's already a conversation. They're already considering collaborating with other studios on Fallout 5. Todd's in the room. He's consulting. He was in the room. He consulted on the TV show. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Satya said, we want Todd Howard to be consulting on this. We want him in the room. Art direction, story, the success of the TV show is linked to the influence of Todd. I would say that's a fair assessment. You want him in the room, but you're not going to sit around and frickin' wait for Bethesda to finish Elder Scrolls 6. You just aren't going to. Money talks, bro. That show is red hot right now, and the second season will do the same thing. There'll be a surge of interest and a surge of players, and the question that somebody like Satya is going to have is, what do we have in the market to capitalize on this? What do we have? Show's been approved for 3 seasons, right? And if they try to get that season out, season 2, they start production whenever, and it ships either late next year, early 2025. Now they've got that's a 4-year dev cycle on a game, roughly, for if they try to time it with season 3. Is somebody having remorse over cheering for an acquisition? Some things are beyond the means. Todd Howard knows best on how long it takes to turn out a game, and it can't be done in a short time frame. It can't be done. Devs, I'm telling you, the C-suite don't give a frick about that. Unless they have something in the works, I don't think they can make it. I could see them right now. I'm not kidding you at all. They haven't started on Elder Scrolls 6 in any substantive way. We know this. You know they're making strides to improve Starfield. We're going to cover the update to Starfield tomorrow, probably, that they just pushed out. And I could see Satya saying, whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes. If you've got to siphon people off of Elder Scrolls, if you've got to collaborate with other studios, look at how much Microsoft owns. You honestly think they're just going to sit around and wait? They're not going to. They own so many studios. I wouldn't even be shocked. It wouldn't shock me at all if a bunch of doors get kicked in and they say, everything you're working on, shelve it. Set it aside. You are going to help us with Fallout 5. They own so many studios. They have so much developmental bandwidth at their fingertips right now. New Vegas remake or remaster is the clear winner here. Okay, but Bold Alpha Wolf, that could coincide with Season 2. And then a Fallout 4, a Fallout 5 could coincide with Season 3. It doesn't even have to coincide with Season 3. You could end Season 3 with trailers about Fallout 5. If you've got trailers and the game comes out a year later, perfect. You capitalize on the popularity of the show. You synchronized your marketing. When was the last time you seen Phil Spencer on camera? Podcast in, was that February? I think. Wade says, my biggest concern is Microsoft wanting to capitalize on the spike in the interest in rushing something out. They already have me concerned. Rushing something just multiplies this tenfold. Oh, you better believe it. If Sony's willing to do it with The Last of Us, Microsoft would be willing to do it with Fallout. Look at what Sony did with The Last of Us PC port. What a freaking joke that was. Why did that happen? Some dumb C-suite moron said, well, we need that ready so that we can capitalize on the show. And they handed it to frickin' Iron Galaxy. Idiots. Why would you do that? Let's take one of our most iconic franchises and we dumped money on a high production TV show with a big name actor. Well, I've got an idea. Let's get Iron Galaxy to port one of our Fabergé eggs. What a disaster. If Sony's willing to do that with The Last of Us, do you think Microsoft's going to bat an eye about shoving out a Fallout 5 and rushing it? That's what you should be concerned with. Whether or not Todd Howard gets to make it as his retirement game, that's not the concern. I've always said, stop looking at Xbox. Stop looking at Phil Spencer and his fancy jackets and Sarah Bond's pretty face. Look at Microsoft. Microsoft is acidic to creative process. That's the concern you should have right now. Is they're going to think this sucker is red hot. We want a game in 3 to 4 years' time. And anybody with a brain is going to say, that's too fast. That's way too fast. The hope would be that there's enough pushback to say, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. We're having an upswing. The IP and the brand of Fallout's having an upswing. The last thing you want to do is rush a product to market that isn't ready and is bad. That'll be the end of Fallout as a game IP as we know it. People would have zero confidence going forward. You're starting to rebuild trust with 76. People are coming back to Fallout 4 for the next gen update. Even that's a little shaky because people are really irritated about the fact that it runs better on PlayStation. I don't know how that happened. Well, I mean, we know how that happened, you know. So much for running circles around the PS5. What Microsoft hears is, people are really excited about spreadsheets right now. Let's get a new version of Excel out there. Todd said recently he never wants to retire. That means decades more sweet jackets are in the future. I mean, I don't know if he said he never wants to retire. I think that, you know, he might have been saying it in a joking manner or a little bit tongue in cheek. Every man has a date where he crosses over the event horizon and says, I have priorities in my life that matter more than another game or another project. And a firebomb from Stone Spire. He did. Okay, so he never retires. Let's be realistic here. We know that's not going to happen. Everybody postures and puffs their chest out, and then, you know, life comes at you, dude. All it takes is a couple of colleagues, friends, or family members that get up in age. Maybe a friend or family member passes away and gives you some perspective, and you're like, you know what? I'm good. You know, you start getting close and around to 60, and your energy levels aren't quite the same. Your friends and your family members, you know, are moving in different stages of life, and you're at the office all the time. When you're that wealthy, yeah, I think every dog has his day, and every man has his retirement date. Like, it's like, I don't think you can just be like, yeah, I'm never going to retire. I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, everybody says that. Listen, you never want to give a hint about retiring when you're in his position because it creates market. It can create like a lack of confidence in the market. Like, you can't be Todd Howard and be like, yeah, I don't know, retire. I could retire in a couple of years. And everyone's like, Todd Howard's going to retire in 2 years. Elder Scrolls 6 is in trouble. Like, in this industry, he has to basically say, oh, yeah, I don't really have any plans to retire ever. He doesn't want to he doesn't want to feed the FUD machine, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt machine. He doesn't want to feed that. I don't think Microsoft would capitalize so quickly. I think they'll wait a few seasons as it continues to have success and could still see a Fallout game in 2028. Yeah, but that's 4 years from now, Lushy. That's what I just said. They're going to say, minimum, we want the game in the market in 4 years. We can align that with the show or a movie or whatever they have planned. I don't know. But they're not going to sit by and think about it. If you're going to let Todd Howard and Bethesda build it, then you're not getting Fallout 5 in 2028. You're not. You're going to get Elder Scrolls 6 in 2028 or 2029. You don't get Fallout 5 in 2028 if you let Todd Howard and the team build it. You could get Fallout 5 in 2028 if right now they start tasking teams and they get Bethesda outlining and sketching and storyboarding and setting things up and letting a team start to build it. Microsoft has an awful lot of developmental bandwidth at their fingertips. Everybody wants to talk about, oh, they own more studios than anybody else. Big Daddy Microsoft, Big Daddy Microsoft. Yep, you're darn right. And what do you think they're going to do when one of the assets that they own is suddenly really popular? What are they going to do? They spend $70 billion on ABK, whatever it was for Bethesda. What was it, like 7 or 8 bill? Come on. You think they're going to sit around and be like, yeah, no, that's fine. You guys get to fall out when you can. Microsoft's not going to see this the way that we're seeing it. They have no affection for Fallout. They don't. It's an asset. It's a piece of IP that they own that's red hot. And they're going to say, who can we get to build it? We have all these teams. We have all these studios. Now, is that a good plan? Probably not. Unless you can get Obsidian. Right? You want a team familiar with these types of games. Look at what happened when ZeniMax told Arcane to do a multiplayer game. ZeniMax is like, we don't really want to. We don't know if we really can. And they didn't. Redfall is a disaster. Right? Like, that's what happens when the C-suite says, hey, multiplayer is hot right now. Build a multiplayer game. And the studio's like, what? We don't want to do that. We don't even know if we have enough people for that. It requires larger staff to do a multiplayer game. That's the way C-suites think. They chase the trend because that's quite literally how you make the money in some instances. So with Fallout's success as a TV show, I can't see C-suite board members, decision makers at Microsoft saying, well, hey, what are we doing with Fallout? Oh, no, yeah, that's fine. We'll just wait. We'll let Bethesda get to it when they get to it. If you want Bethesda to build it, then Elder Scrolls 6 is under threat. I mean, I'll say it. Elder Scrolls 6 is under threat. You're going to have to wait longer for that. Microsoft could say, nah, bump that. Market projections are showing that Fallout is going to continue to be on a rise of relevancy. We got shows lined up. We got endorsement deals lined up. We got merch lined up. We got updates in existing games lined up. We got a remaster here and a remaster there. Yeah, I know you guys really wanted to build the Elder Scrolls 6, but this is now the priority. That's another possibility. There's multiple possibilities here, right? Possibility one, they let Bethesda wait. They let Bethesda wait and they build Elder Scrolls 6. I think that's the least likely of the options. Option number two, they want Bethesda to consult with a studio or some studios to help get this game out the door in 4 to 5 years' time. Option number three, Bethesda, we want you to build it. You want to build it. You don't want to hand it to somebody else, then you got to put Elder Scrolls 6 on hold. Like, there are no options here. I don't think there are any options here where Microsoft says, no, that's fine. Build Elder Scrolls 6 first and then build Fallout 5. That's okay. I guess option 4 would be you split development and you work on both Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 at the studio. I think that's probably the worst choice because then you're harming both pieces of property. Knowing Microsoft, they might be okay with that. They're like, just get the crap out the door. Because Microsoft is a software company and they ship software and then they fix it later. Right? That mentality is in gaming in some circles. Yeah, ship it and fix it later. So, if Microsoft is driving the ship, there's a handful of ways this turns out. I think the best choice would be Bethesda consults, get teams that are equipped to do it, and get this game into the market in 4 years. Now, I don't think you'd end up with a very great title. I think that's just too fast of a turnaround time. But can we just double the size of Bethesda? I mean, Jaden says split development would be terrible. I don't disagree with you. But you could do split development and bring in support from other studios to shoulder the burden, right? So it doesn't pull away too much from Elder Scrolls 6. Arcane never misses. I'll tell you what. Every developer doesn't miss until they do. And Redfall was a miss. Arcane never misses until they do, and they did. And, Bethesda never misses until they do, and they did with Fallout 76 and with Starfield. Like every studio, you could say that about every studio. Oh yeah, they never miss. Yeah, until they do. FromSoft? Okay. Yeah, they never miss until they do. It might not happen right now. It might not happen in our lifetime. Eventually. I think eventually every studio is like, oops. Yeah, CD Projekt Red. Oh, they never miss until they do. You're always going to have the game that you can't top, the reputation that you can't live up to. I think it happens to everybody. They're completely independent until they're not. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, the 25 puts us at 85 for the week. All right, 85 for the week. What that means is you guys 165. So split that between two. You're going to need like 80 something tomorrow and then 80 something Friday, and you'll get your Rage game Friday night. If we need better incentives, let us know. If you're like, a Rage game's not that interesting, let me know. Is there stuff you want me to do on Friday nights, games you want me to play? If you want to put me through embarrassing scenarios, there is a Just Dance style VR game. We were going to make that an incentive this month. I was going to probably make that one a little bit more than the first week incentive because, you know, it's embarrassing. And if you want me to embarrass myself, you're going to have to do a little bit more than the first week. We usually do like a 250, then a 300. Then I'm not sure about the fourth week. I will also, a little bit of housekeeping. Next week is a totally normal schedule. The middle of May, very easy to remember, the middle of May, I will be gone. When we get into the teens, right? 13th through the 17th, I will be gone. Streams will resume on the 20th. I'll be back in time for Hellblade. So middle week of the month, I will be out of town. And we are going to go to Writer's Room in about a minute here. I'm setting up redirect right now. At least try Tekken 8 even if you're not in the fighting games. No, I'm good. I don't waste time on games that I know I won't like. I don't have time for that. I barely have time for the games I want to finish. When you have a backlog, the last thing you're going to do is play a game that you don't have an interest in. Like, my backlog is freaking huge. All right, there's a link in chat. That's for Writer's Room. That's your opportunity to come be a part of shaping the show, giving ideas. We had great input yesterday on the thumbnail. Become a member right now. Click join, right? We would love to see more people pick up their own memberships. This is not a very large channel. This is not a very large channel. I do this full time, right? You're not going to find a lot of people with a channel this size doing full-time streaming, okay? This is it. I don't do anything else. And so you guys make it happen, and we appreciate that very, very much. So those of you that gift subs, gift members, and pick up your own memberships and super chats and coffee, thank you so much for doing that. It's what makes this daily show possible. So I'm going to end this, and we're going to go over to Writer's Room. Thanks so much for being a member. You may have gotten gifted a member today or yesterday. We got about 80 new members on the week and a bunch of new members last week. We need about 165 more members for the Friday night incentive of me having to play a Rage game along with my wife. That means you're going to have to get about 80 members on Thursday as well as on Friday, which is very doable. You guys, some days and weeks, we're averaging over 100 members a day. So I know you guys can do it. We're going to be discussing the show that we're going to do tomorrow. It'll likely be a Starfield show, which I'm excited about. I think it'll be a fun show. I think I have a good theory on what they're doing. I'm going to end the previous stream about Fallout 5, and I'm going to bring everybody over with a redirect. And I did change the thumbnail partway through that episode.